It's late, so I'm going to talk a little quietly. Okay, isomorphic strings. Given two strings S and T, determine if they are isomorphic. Two strings S and T are isomorphic if the characters in S can be replaced to get T. All occurrences of a character must be replaced with another character while preserving the order of characters. No two characters may map to the same character, but a character may map to itself. Okay, so we have S. So at first this is a little hard to understand, but let's look at it, okay? So input S, we have E, and for T we have A. So the reason we ended up with true here is because if we mapped E to A, right, if we switched out the E for an A, and we switched out the G for a D, we would have add, because there's the same amount of occurrences in the same order for each element if mapped, for each character if you map that. Like if there was E, G, 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 like if there was 3 G's in this egg here, so we didn't spell egg properly, we had 3 G's, and we tried mapping to add to egg, we would find that the two strings are not isomorphic because we would have A, D, 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 because every G would map to a D, and that would not map to add. You can kind of see this with example 2, where F11 are F11 and B23 isomorphic? This is not true, because like how can you map that, right? You can map maybe F to B, so you could start with a B, but then if you mapped like 1 to 2, or you would have like B22, you couldn't get like 3 because this is the same, they're both the same character, so it would just be B22. Okay, so a good way to solve this is we're gonna go through so a constraint here is that their lengths are both always going to be the same, so this makes it pretty easy for us. Pretty much we're just gonna go through both of these strings at the same time, and if the character has not already been, so we're going to have 2 separate dictionaries to keep track, one for S and one for T, and if the character hasn't already been mapped, basically, we're going to map it. So we're mapping the first occurrence of every character. So if you think about it, if we're mapping the first occurrence of every character, shouldn't the indexes have appeared at the same point? Yeah, like at every iteration. Like if we're at the 0, 1, 2, right? If we're at the second iteration, or technically the third, yeah, if we start from index 1, then yeah, I guess the third iteration, then like G, like if we're checking G's index, it should map to this one, right? Because that's the first occurrence, and D should map to this one. So check for the first occurrence every time, and if their first occurrences are ever different, then we know that these are not isomorphic, so we can return false. However, if we get through the entire loop and we never find like any point where the strings are mapped to different indexes at any point during the loop, then we can just return true. So it's assumed true, but we're trying to prove it false, and if we cannot prove it false, it'll just be true. Okay, okay, S map, and then we have T map. Alright, so what we're gonna do, I mean, I use this, I usually use default dict, because I just like using that. Okay, for I in the range, length of S. Doesn't really matter if we choose S or T here. If S of I is not in S map, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do S map of S I is equal to I, so the index. Similarly, if T of I is not in T map, then we're gonna do T tmap t of I is equal to I, and then if this is correct, right? Okay, and then if the s map of s of I is ever not equal to t map t of did t map t of I, if I guess return false, otherwise like return true. Okay, so this is a O of n runtime complexity because we're just looping through the length of s, and it's going to be O of n extra space because we're creating two dictionaries, and in the worst case scenario, smap and tmap could be completely unique characters, so these could both be completely filled up in the worst case. So the worst case for both runtime complexity and extra space is O of n. Okay, thank you for